Well, Dan.
Yeah.
There are, as we've always discussed, lots of ideas out there, and some of those ideas are so cockamamie, they're so kooky that sometimes somebody comes along with a way to kind of put a little sugar with the medicine and help it go down. And Uncle Doug is famous for both sugar and medicine.
He calls it medicine anyway.
Right. Right. It is a form of medication.
Sure.
With a street value. So, Uncle Doug is here to introduce us to a new segment that might have something to do with a spoonful of sugar.
Exactly. So, this is the second week in a row I've introduced a new segment, so this is kind of exciting for me.
Don't get cocky. Don't get cocky. There will be no third week.
Uncle Mark and Uncle Dan, any religion that has survived into the modern era is carrying beliefs, dogmas, and traditions that no one ever thought would have to stand up to modern biology, archaeology, physics, genetics, the internet. Therefore, these religions have had to develop ornate, not so convincing and often very silly explanations for their bullshit to make it palatable in the modern world. These explanations are called apologetics.
Yes.
Indeed.
So today we are going to play a new game that delves into these apologetics that we're calling Square That Circle.
Ba, 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 da.
So Cody is where you put in the crowd noises, the jingle, all the things in studio audience. Perfect.
Not for nothing, but I'm pretty sure that Mark and I just put in the crowd noises and the jingle.
Yeah, so. Cody, cut those out and put in the good stuff. All right. So today's edition of Square That Circle is an all Book of Mormon edition.
Oh.
Wow.
Why does the Book of Mormon need apologetics?
Yeah, I know.
As you know.
That's a recent one. They should have already known about some of the things.
Well, they should have. It's funny because when Joseph Smith was writing the Book of Mormon, a lot of the things he was writing were being disproven while the ink was still wet.
Yeah,
that's true.
The Book of Mormon is chock full of anachronisms or bullshit. These are things that belong in a time and space other than where they're being referred to. So there's a vast amount of Mormon apologetics for these anachronisms, and most of the apologetics we'll discuss today come from a website called fairmormon.org.
Yes.
Which, if you haven't spent time on that website, it's actually quite entertaining.
Does anybody know? Look, any listeners out there? We have plenty of listeners in the Mormon spectrum. Does anybody know anybody who works at that website?
That's a good question.
I would love to talk to one of them. That just seems like the saddest fucking job. I knew a woman whose job in college, she was a photography major. Her job in college was to take pictures of stillborns at the hospital because parents wanted a picture, and she would make the blanket look all pretty around it and kind of clean up its face.
Oh my God.
That was sad. This working for fair.org is so fucking sad. I really would love to, first of all, just as a suicide prevention method, love to talk to somebody who works there. But honestly, if you're some disaffected fair.org webmaster, you want to come talk to us, our DMs are open.
Boy, that would be an interesting conversation.
But let us see that sadness by exploring their work through this game.
So here we go. Here's how we're going to play. I am going to give you an anachronism from the Book of Mormon, and then a series of apologetics explaining that anachronism. Okay. And you guys have to guess which one of those is true.
Oh, boy.
All right?
Okay.
No whammies.
All right. No whammies.
The secret word is Zarahemla.
All right. Number one. In the Book of Mormon, horses are mentioned...
B. Oh, shit. Sorry, I jumped.
Correct. Number two. Horses are mentioned several times in the Book of Mormon. However, horses, as we know them today, were not indigenous to North America, and no evidence of their presence exists in pre-Columbian America because they were introduced by the Spanish in the early 16th century. So, how do Mormons square that circle? All right, the primary explanation is that horses never went extinct in the Americas because A smaller version of today's modern horses survived in the Americas, as evidenced by the fact that the Book of Mormon never explicitly says that anyone rode a horse, or that the chariots mentioned were never explicitly used in battle, and therefore may have been ceremonial.
Oh, okay.
B.
So wait, that was the tiny horse, too tiny for actual use, and that's why we don't know that they ever existed explanation?
That's right. They're
You guys- you
tiny
guys-
little horses.
Remember from like the 80s, maybe the 70s, the Chuck Wagon commercials?
The little tiny Chuck
Like
wagon.
it was a dog food commercial. You know, all of a sudden, yee-haw! A little cowboy would run across the kitchen.
That's right.
What was that? A little stagecoach
Yeah.
would go across the kitchen. So it's like that. It was a ceremonial.
A ceremonial chariot.
It was a Book of Mormon train set, is what you're saying. Okay. I like
right.
that. I like that one.
B. The rich, highly acidic Mesoamerican soil destroyed all evidence of the smaller Book of Mormon version of the horse.
Hate it when that
C.
happens.
But it grows amazing coffee.
C. Joseph Smith was merely translating the Book of Mormon, and so the word horse, although clear to us, could have been referring to other creatures that were indeed native to the Americas at the time of the Book of Mormon, such as deer and tapirs. Okay? D. Actually, lots of evidence has been found proving that horses were indigenous to the Americas, but it has been discounted or covered up by a scientific community bent on discrediting the Mormon religion. And finally, E.
Oh my God, there's so many choices.
There's no reason to believe that a small enclave of mastodons, horses, and giant sloths survived in some small corner of the Americas, which is where the narrative of the Book of Mormon found them, but that this enclave has simply not been discovered yet.
Okay. So,
Okay.
okay.
I'm gonna.
There's
Here's what I'm
five
gonna-
choices.
Okay. Sorry, you go ahead. You go ahead there, Mark.
Well, there's five choices,
Yeah.
and I'm mostly disappointed that there is not a sixth, which is all of the above, which probably is true. Dan, what were you going to say?
It does seem like any of these, probably any and all of these have been used by somebody at some point. But what seems most likely to me is that they're going to tell us that it was actually an alpaca the whole time.
So we're guessing. We need to guess what the right apologetic is, right? We're guessing what the fair Mormon.
What the fair Mormon apologetic is for horses in the Book of Mormon. What's your best guess?
Yeah, I agree with Dan. It's going to be some kind of long-legged crocodile.
Well, Mark, you were actually correct, and there is no option F. It's all of the above.
Yes.
Oh, is it? Okay, so the acidic soil.
The acidic soil is one explanation. There's like
love
several explanations for horses. It's like throwing chaff. It's like, well, they were small horses. They disappeared. They were tapirs. The soil dissolved the bones.
Oh my God.
Locusts.
Yeah. So Doug, just describe for our listeners who live above the equator what a tapir is.
Tapir is, if anyone's seen the opening sequence of 2001: A Space Odyssey, they're the weird little tiny, like knee-high, like proto-elephant-looking creatures. They're just like pigs with long floppy snouts.
It's a jungle pig.
It's a jungle pig.
It's a jungle pig.
Yeah.
So clearly, that's what Captain Nephi rode into battle. Captain Moroni rode into battle. Was a jungle pig.
Yeah,
Right.
and a little one at that. But you know what? These Lamanites, these former Jews, they were little. They could write a tapir if they needed to.
And I love that, where this is said to have taken place, a lot of the story is Central America, right?
Right.
Which is replete with archaeological finds. Like, Mexico had, 7 pre-Columbian?
Replete with archaeological sites and archaeologists.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Constantly digging.
Right. Finding everything but substantially bodied horses. Okay, great.
Well,
okay.
there is that 12-foot by 12-foot stash of thousands of horse bones that they just haven't been able to dig up yet. They just didn't. They just haven't
that
found
enclave, yes.
that enclave yet.
One of these days. Okay.
If they find a tiny chariot for like a cat, I am going to pee my pants with joy. That
Right?
will make me so happy.
All right. So I'm not going to cheat and have all of them be all of the above. That was kind of sneaky. So in the next one, only one of these answers is true.
Okay.
So number 2.
Come on, baby. I need that money.
In the Book of Ether, the Jaredites talked about their elephants and how they were the most useful of all the animals. Of course, elephants have never been indigenous to the Americas. So how do Mormons square that circle? A. In the climactic battle that destroyed the entire Jaredite civilization, it is likely that not only were all the living elephants killed, but theirs and their predecessors' bones were converted to weapons, as there would be nothing more useful for that purpose at the time. In fact, elephant bone weapons would be a striking technological leap, but the conversion would likely make their future identification difficult or impossible for modern-day archaeologists.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, because every single bone of every single elephant was weaponized.
And not only that, we found clear. I mean, because even at that, we would have found like evidence of bone weaponry, but apparently we didn't. I got nothing on that.
And while I am very, very, I'm leaning towards that being the true apologetic, it doesn't take into account that it doesn't matter what shape you put an elephant's bone into. There are these little things inside of it called DNAs that reveal what animal it came from.
Look what I found. It's a club. Put it back. We're looking for elephant bones.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. B. Given the density of the Mesoamerican jungle, it is likely that the Jaredite elephants never moved inland but spent their entire lives near the shores. Therefore, their remains would have been totally obliterated by tidal forces.
Oh, sure.
Right, because that's what the ocean does. Is there's no fossils in the ocean. There are no bones in the ocean at all.
Well, I don't know. You guys have heard of an elephant graveyard, right? It's just that Mesoamerican elephants liked to die in the sea.
Right, in a part of the sea where their bones haven't been found.
Walk out into the waves, sort of as far as their little trunk could snorkel them, and then they'd just die.
You're warmer than you know, Uncle Dan.
I love how many fucking things have to happen for that apologetic to work. The jungle was too thick for an elephant. Elephants who live in Thailand, right?
Right.
Exactly. The jungle was too thick for an elephant to walk through it. Great. I love it.
All right. C. Clearly, we're talking about domesticated mammoths here, guys. Why are you being such dicks? D. Elephants are known for their long memories, mostly because they make astounding journeys to die in their own burial grounds. Once the Jaredites had gone extinct, the remaining elephants could have found their way back to Asia via the Alaskan ice pack to return to their kind.
Shut the fuck up.
Leaving none behind, nor any remains.
So even in old age, none of them died of accidents or disease, right? They just, at a certain time, they were just like, well, time to walk back to Asia.
Yeah. All 3,000 of us that are the only ones that have lived this whole time.
Right.
Okay.
One of these four is the true apologetic for elephants in the New World.
All right, so say them again. The first one was...
the climactic battle, they turned their bones into weapons.
Yes.
They lived along the shoreline. They were domesticated mammoths. And they wandered off after the Jaredites were wiped out.
Now, before we get to the actual answer, can I just ask you, Doug, did you make up all of the other ones?
3 of these I made up myself.
That it goes to show, like, the apologetics game
totally
is just...
Heyfair.org.
Right.
If anybody's listening.
Why is nobody hiring you, Douglas? You've got this. This is an easy thing for you.
Oh fuck!
It's too easy, unfortunately.
I don't know which one. Just because I like the hilarity of the scale of the project, I'm gonna go with every metacarpal and vertebrae and ear bone was turned into a weapon.
I like that one too. Although I'm gonna go with the one that jumped into my mind the second you mentioned elephants, which is they're all just domesticated mammoths.
Dan wins.
Oh,
it does not say in the Book of Mormon that they brought the elephants with them. So therefore, when they got here, they domesticated mammoths and put them to use.
And another time we'll talk about the mode of transportation they brought their animals with them in. And an elephant would be hilarious.
All right. Dan's up 5 points.
Fuck.
Okay, number 3. Brass, an alloy of copper and zinc, as well as steel, an alloy of iron and carbon, and steel weapons are mentioned in the Book of Mormon. Obviously, there was no steel weaponry when Columbus arrived because the exclusive use of that weapon by the conquistadors is one reason that the Native Americans were so freaking killable. However, steel did exist as long as 4,000 years ago. However, it wasn't even present in 600 BCE Jerusalem when Lehi, Nephi, and his bitchy clan left there to come to America.
Oh, wow.
Brass did not come along until much later. You might ask if this discredits the entire story that we have covered in this show about Laban and the plates of brass? Yes. Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
There is no evidence of either ancient alloy in the Americas before Columbus. So how do Mormons square that circle?
Boy. Okay.
Actually, lots of evidence has been found proving that steel and brass were present in the Americas, but it has been discounted or covered up by a scientific community bent on discrediting the Mormon religion.
Okay.
Sounds familiar.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that one is just true. So we'll go on to the 4 that might not be.
That one's just a blanket that they do over all of the questions.
It seriously is. Okay, one readily.
It's actually just on the stationery, right? And you just type in the body of the letter underneath it.
It's on the back of your business card if you work for fairmormon.org. B. One readily available and oft underappreciated source of steel is fallen meteorites. These very common objects could easily be the source of the steel referred to in the Book of Mormon.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
C. Clearly, we're talking about copper and iron here, guys. Why are you being such dicks? D. After the Nephite genocide chronicled in the Book of Mormon, chronicled in the Book of Mormon and the Book of Moroni, the surviving Lamanite tribes fell completely under the influence of Satan, with no Nephite left to help them find their way. As they descended into the blood cults and cannibal tribes that Columbus found in 1492, they hoarded and hid all the remaining steel and brass. Before it could be used or traded, the continued internecine warfare of the Lamanites forever hid the evidence of these caches of ancient alloys.
Oy. Okay. As many of you might know, Uncle Doug and I recently were on a Gamcast where we saw what happens to a world where a righteous white person is not there to guide the duskier races. So I think that certainly resonates with me right now. So I'm going to go with that one.
There's one more.
Oh,
there's one more.
Shit.
E. The evidence of hematite, magnetite, and ilmenite in the Waxahachie Valley from around 1200 BCE prove that there was a fairly sophisticated metallurgical culture in the Americas that we have only scratched the surface of.
I'm still going that there wasn't a white person to keep them righteous. So therefore, they lost it all.
Yep, they buried it and then went to war with each other and forgot about it.
That's what you should do. If you have really decent metal before going to war, just chuck it. Get rid of all that stuff because it's just going to weigh you down with your elephant bone spear.
What I was going to say is that it's probably buried with all the horse carcasses and the elephant bones.
Boy, when they turn over that rock, what a day of jubilee it will be.
It does make one want to go down to Central America and dig a giant hole and dump a whole bunch of horse and elephant and
totally. We should just go to a hardware store and buy a bunch of yard implements. But it is pretty funny how obsessed with things being buried and undiscovered are a people whose founder and original prophet spent many of his days looking for things buried and hidden underground.
It's the original sin of Mormonism.
Right.
They keep going back to that bag of tricks, man. So I'm going with they were too black to do the right thing.
All right, Dan.
Wait, what were some of the first ones? I've lost the plot a little bit.
Okay, the scientists are dicks.
Yes.
Meteorites. We're talking about copper and iron. Don't be dicks about it. They were too black and brown to be good people, and there was a lot of metallurgy going on at the time. So fuck off.
I'm going to say it's the wrong metals. That it was actually iron and copper the whole time.
Dan, you win by default.
Fuck.
The only one that was made up is the one that Mark went for.
It just, look, you can never go wrong with the racism angle. Never, ever.
Oh, awesome. So, Dan, you're 10 up.
Woo.
All right, we've got one more. Number 4. This is the last one for today.
Okay, hold on.
This is the lightning round.
Shaking it off.
Yeah, it's double points, so Mark could even come out of this tied.
All right.
Okay.
The Jews.
Ding, ding. Okay. Last but not least, number 4, the Seer Stone, or Peep Zone versus the Urim and Thummim.
Oh.
I like that you said the Peep Zone.
The Peep Zone?
That's the...
That's where we were last night.
That's the color commentary sportscast of the translation of the Book of Mormon.
That's right.
The Peep
I like
Zone.
to think it's like the cool teen Book of Mormon learning night. Come to the Peep Zone. Get wick-a-wick.
Okay, back to the story. The Urim and Thummim, which were buried with the golden plates and used in the translation of the Book of Mormon, were thought to be what Joseph Smith used to translate that ancient tome of Reformed Egyptian. before it was revealed in 2015 that he actually used, at some points, a peepstone or a small rock that he put inside a hat to look at. So, the seer stone versus the Urim and Thummim. How do Mormons square that circle?
Oh.
All right, A.
Wait, I'm going to cheat. They don't. But go on with your little game.
All right, A. As Joseph learned how to use the Urim and Thummim, his skills became honed, and before long, he didn't need the cumbersome apparatus, but instead only needed something to focus his attention. He therefore turned his luck to his luck stone, much like people using a singing bowl to clear their mind before meditation.
Wow.
All right?
Okay.
B. The Urim and Thummim was always a decoy. As word grew about the golden plates and the enemies of Joseph conspired against him, he invented the Urim and Thummim because he knew that his enemies would seek such a mystical device above all else, and this gave him more time for the translation.
Oh, I love that. It's I'm not stupid. You're stupid. You're the stupid one to think that's even real. Because when I said it, I didn't mean it was real. Just to see how dumb you are. Stupid.
All right, C. The
Racism.
The Urim and Thummim was defective. Although useful, the apparatus had become damaged in Moroni's journey to the hill Cumorah and been further damaged in the 1400 years it lay below the surface of the earth. Because it had become miscalibrated and there was no one on the earth that could fine-tune it,
That it was ever calibrated.
it took Joseph considerable concentration to use it and even caused him migraines and nightmares. This explains part of his frustration when Martin Harris lost the original 116 pages of the translation, as this would mean many more hours of covering already finished work. After much prayer and pleading, the Lord gave Joseph an increased level of discernment that allowed him to use the seer stone rather than the cumbersome Urim and Thummim.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. D. The seer stone was part of the Urim and Thummim. Although vague in its description, the stones that made up the eyepieces of the Urim and Thummim were not opaque or clear, but solid stone. As Joseph's skill grew, he was able to remove one of these stones and use it more like a monocle for the translation. This enabled him to stay one step ahead of his enemies while he finished the translation.
As was the fashion of the time.
It's the Mr. Peanut theory.
Wow. Okay, so in brief.
Okay, well, there's one more. E. The translation of the Book of Mormon was always miraculous and inside Joseph's head. The vehicle of the translation matters not at all. It's the fruit of the effort that matters. So,
I like fruit.
in review, he got so good at it, he didn't need it anymore. The whole thing was a decoy. It was defective. The seer stone was part of the Urim and Thummim, or it doesn't matter how he did it, just that he did it.
I like the last one because the last one's just shut up. It could be summed up as just you didn't do it right. Shut up.
I just love the idea that this thing that lets you see into the earth and the Google Translate of the pre-Columbian world was miscalibrated, which I think is hilarious. I'm going to go for all of the above.
Okay? Dan?
It's just, I mean, that does feel like a cheat, but I'm going to let him get away with it. I'm going to go with the second to last one. What was that one?
It was part of the Urim and Thummim.
Yeah,
And he just took it out and used it kind of as a remote piece.
I'm doing that one just because I always heard, because even when I was a Mormon, I had heard of both of the things, and I always just conflated the two. I always just thought that the thing, the peepstone was what the Urim and Thummim was.
Okay, I'm going to let you guys into a little secret here. In preparing this bit, I looked up the anachronism that was the seer stone versus the Urim and Thummim.
Yeah.
Made up all 5 of these apologetics, and then looked at the fairmormon.org to see if I'd matched on any of them. And I did not. They're all
really?
fake. Really? Fake, yep.
Well, that's fucking shitty. I was going to take the square here.
The closest one is that he became so good at it he didn't need it.
Right.
But it never it just was like, well, it was this and then it was that.
Oh, God.
So all of those are fake and made up.
Wow, that was a cheat.
That was a cheat.
So now listeners might be interested to know that this is a recent apologetic, correct?
2015.
Yeah, 2015. What we all believe, well, I never believed, but believers believed that it was a giant pair of spectacles, right?
Like attached to a breastplate.
Somehow attached to a breastplate that was 3 feet wide.
Right.
And that he put the whole breastplate over his head?
No one knew. I never
Right.
saw it depicted well in the...
And then all of a sudden, on the front page of the newspaper was a little brown rock that looked like a little dog poo. And the story, we just suddenly were at war with East Asia. It was just different now.
Yep.
Right?
No, it was a peepstone. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that was the rock in the hat.
Yeah.
And that happened in 2015.
15.
And
Which
part of that was
kind of
because
nutty.
part of the reason that all came to light was because there had been these underground rumblings for decades about, but we know that Joseph used these peepstones. He talked about it. We have these little, references to it all throughout these writings, and the church had just quietly ignored that for as long as they could. And then the internet came along and tried to ruin everything. And in their attempt to help Mitt Romney get the presidency and also not look like crazy people, they had to start writing these essays that sort of explained a lot of the stuff that people online were revealing, and that's when this rock came out. That's when they trotted out the rock.
Yep.
This little milk dud that appeared in the newspaper, and
I think it's a jade egg. Actually, I think if you put it in your poos,
they should have washed it. I think. I don't think they're helping. It's funny. I don't know that they're helping. I don't
know that there is a way out.
They're damned if they do. They're damned if they don't.
Yeah.
If they continue along the road of just it being an insane, weird lie, or try to explain it away, I don't think there's. I mean, if I were them, I wouldn't explain it away. I'd just say, "Fuck it. It's a breastplate with."
It is
lenses.
what it is. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
if there's
boys,
one
this
thing that we
is,
can learn in modern times, it's that all you have to do if people claim that they have proof that you're not telling the truth is yell the words "fake news" as often and as loud as you can, and then you win.
Yeah. No shit. That should be the name of our game. So anyway, Doug, square that circle was a lot of fun.
Well, and if I'm not here next week, you'll know that I sent this on to fairmormon.org and they called me back.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
Well,
Thanks, Doug.
Best of luck with your new life, Doug. Let's move on.
Moving on.